Poetry is what I will not be talking about today because I have no idea whatsoever about poetry. So today I will be talking about a topic that I know most, and that is jazz. First of all, let me start by defining jazz for you. Jazz can be defined in 4 characteristics, which is improvisation, interaction, interpretation, and style, and groove. So today I will be highlighting 2 types of styles for you and their differences, which is swing jazz and bebop jazz. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of swing jazz because that is it comes before bebop jazz, and swing jazz was formed in the early 1935. It was during the after the Depression, and it was usually used as dance music, which got people riled up at parties and stuff like that. So today I wanted to talk to you about the 2 differences, the main differences about bebop and swing. Swing is usually performed by what we call big band or orchestras. The size of this, the 3 main differences that I want to talk to you about today are size, the format the music is played in, and the style. First, let's start with the size. Big band, as you can tell, is big. It is played in sections. So you have your rhythm section, which consists of piano, bass, drums. You have your saxophone section, which consists of 2 alto saxophones, 2 tenor saxophones, and a bass saxophone. You also have your trombones, which consist of 4 trombones. And then you have your trumpet section, which consists of 4 to 5 trumpets. That is the Glenn Miller Orchestra. They were very popular in their time. They were in the late big band era. As you can see, the trumpets are in the back, and then you have your trombones in the front, and then you have your saxophones on the side, and then your rhythm sections right here in the middle. Today, what I brought this for is I want to play a clip for you of what the Glenn Miller band actually sounds like. I chose this piece because this is a very well-known piece amongst everywhere. You might have heard it in cartoons, on the elevator, and things like that. And I have a very funny story to tell you about Glenn Miller. It's not really funny, but it's kind of sad. Until recent years, about 5-10 years ago, no one really knew what happened to Glenn Miller. He just kind of disappeared. He was on an airplane off to another USO show that they do, and he never made it to the show, and they were wondering where he was. And so some professor at some hotshot university, this is according to Professor Bruce Babad here at Fulton College, they didn't know what was going on, and they didn't know what happened to Glenn Miller until this professor did some research. And as Glenn Miller was flying through the English Channel, military planes were flying over them, dropping bombs over the river, just to unload their weight. And as they dropped one of the bombs, one of the guys said, "Oops, I think we hit something." No one really took account of to what happened, so this professor matched up the times as to where Glenn Miller would have been on part of the English Channel and the time that the airplane dropped. The guy said, "Oops, I think I hit something," and to his surprise, he hit Glenn Miller. He ended Big Band. Wow. So, with the end of Big Band comes bebop, and bebop is a very, very fun type of music, in my opinion, because according to Professor Bruce Babad, it sounds like a saxophone player is playing with Tourette's. So when you're talking, when you hear a sentence, you hear clear phrasing, and what bebop sounds like is if you were talking like this. And it's really interesting, it's really fun to listen to, and my example is, in my opinion, one of the greatest saxophone players, Mr. Charlie Parker. And I want to play a little clip for you of bebop jazz. sound of beat. One of the biggest things, as you can tell, also, is the size difference. This is the Charlie Parker Quartet, which consisted of a bass player and a trumpet player and another saxophone player, and that's all he had. I don't know this man's name. This man is the famous Dizzy Gillespie, who was a famous bebop trumpet player. The difference between the style of bebop and swing was, like I said, the Tourette's, and with bebop and swing was more focused. You could tell, and it was written out. Bebop was more just, that's the way I hear it, that's the way I'm going to play it. The format of the music, like I said, big band they had charts, they were reading music, and they had certain suggestions of what they had to play. So their music was written out, and then their solos were suggested where the solo should play, and then it would continue on. It would go intro, melody, solo section, and then shout section, which was the end, which is basically the theme, and everybody playing together in unison and just scaring the crap out of people. Bebop is more, since it's smaller, according to according to About.com, since it's smaller, it's more, I guess, intricate because it focuses more on improvisation and more of group interaction, of knowing the players in your quartet or in your group, and knowing what they're going to do next, and just listening and focusing, rather than focusing on music, focusing on interacting with them and stuff like that. So, hopefully today, in conclusion, that I hear jazz and I can tell the difference. Hopefully, I kind of gave you info on what you can do, so next time you're in the elevator and you hear jazz going on, and you can tell, oh, that's big band, or that's bebop. And hopefully you can learn the differences between those, as I did. Thank you.
All right, so for Chay, what did you think?
I thought you had an interesting intro. I felt like you were well organized, and I felt like you knew what it was really about. Like you knew it well, the topic. But it kind of bothered me how you were like fidgeting with your visual aid a little bit. But overall, it was a good speech.
All right, I thought the attention device was kind of a cheap shot, but it worked. I think the idea of using the definition to identify your topic and lead us into what your goal was for the presentation was very effective. You had a good setup of what the content was supposed to be. The definitional material was solid. I think you could have been a little bit more consistent about citing some material, especially on the big band era and swing music. You do focus primarily on Glenn Miller, and you've got an interesting story that you're telling, but it's a side note to the issue of the music itself and why it changed or why it didn't survive. The notion that big band music died because Glenn Miller got bombed, I think, is a little bit of a jump, a big inferential leap. The internal transitions were easy to follow. On the first point you had, it was almost a little too organized. I liked the visuals that you had. I appreciated your integration of the musical cues and the pictures. I thought that went pretty well. Sometimes it's not set up quite as smoothly as it could be, but it came out pretty effectively. The same sort of thing with your presentation. It's very naturalistic, which I think helps a lot. It's not always polished, but you know what? I think I would prefer something that's not really polished, but at least somebody's talking to us in a way that, this is something I know about, this is something I'm interested in, I want to share this with you.